Hi everyone. So welcome back to the next video. Here we are going to study today for the regulation chapter of the regulation of the human physiology. Okay. So first of all, in this video which I am going to tell you, that is actually the regulation. Okay. So regulation in human physiology. Okay, in human physiology specifically, like three organs we will focus. In human physiology, three organs we will focus, which are actually regulating the cardiac activity as well as the complete system in the body. So first of all, which are those three organs? That is actually the kidney, then our heart, as well as the kidney, heart, as well as our lungs. Okay, lungs in the sense like our respiratory process. Okay, so respiration as well as the cardiac activity, so heart, and in the kidney we will see for the excretion. Okay, so these three actually how it is regulating the complete process, that is what we are going to see in this lecture. So let us see, and this RAS mechanism also we will see. So let us start with the good spirit about the regulation of the respiration. So as per our NCERT words, like how the regulation of the respiration we will see in our chapters, that is actually related to the system. Like in our body there are some chemosensitive area, there are some specific centers in our brain which is helping in the regulation of the complete process. So let us focus on that first, then we will move to the topic. So first of all, let us discuss that suppose this is the pons area and here it is the medulla oblongata. Okay, here it will be the medulla oblongata, which is going and continuing itself in the form of a spinal cord. Okay, this would be the spinal cord, and above the medulla oblongata we are having the midbrain, and the roof of the midbrain we knows very well, that is the diencephalon. Okay, that will be the diencephalon, this part. So this would be the diencephalon. So let us see if we are having the pons area. So in the pons we are having the two specific centers known as the apneustic center and the pneumotaxic center. This is the apneustic center, and the second one is the pneumotaxic center. Pneumotaxic center. So these two centers are actually just like a switches which is present in our rooms for the switch on and switch off our light, and to switch on and switch off our fan or any other electric part of electric system in our room. Okay, so like that only. And the centers which is present into the medulla oblongata, that are completely different, that are actually the functioning part which is controlling the different functions of our body. For example, these are the centers for the sneezing. Okay, and for example it will control the vomiting, or might be it will control the coughing, yarning, etc. Or very specifically it is having the rhythm center for the respiration. So I will write respiratory rhythm center here. It would be the respiratory rhythm center. Okay, so this respiratory rhythm center is actually controlling our breathing. And one more center, that is a cardiac activity center. So we will write here cardiac center. So these are specific centers which is present into the medulla oblongata. This is the medulla oblongata, this is the pons, and this would be the midbrain. Okay, this is the midbrain, and this part is the diencephalon. Here I have mentioned the terms. So we are not having any work with the midbrain and diencephalon this time, but we are going to focus on these two terms. Okay, so the centers for the sneezing, coughing, yarning and all, or cardiac activity of the respiration, that is all present into the medulla oblongata, but actually they all are regulated by the two switches which is present into the pons area, and these are actually controlling positively or negatively. Apneustic center will regulate positively, so it is a positively regulator. Okay, and pneumotaxic center will regulate negatively. So for example, if we want to switch off the fan, so we want that fan switch should be stop working. So for that we have to switch it off from the switchboard, and if we want that fan should start working, so for that we have to switch on the fan from the switchboard. So like that only, if we are feeling sneezing, so and we want not to do the sneezing, and we are in the meeting, so in that meeting we don't want to disturb others, so we will try to stop the sneezing. So in that condition, what we will do, we will give the positive regulation with the help of the apneustic center, and we will stop sneezing. And if we want to stop, but even then we are not able to control the sneezing and we are sneezing, so in that case pneumotaxic center is giving the negative regulation we want, but even then we are not able to control it. So that is the pneumotaxic center controller regulation. Okay, so that is what we have seen. And one more thing that is under the control, like if we will see for the breathing and all, so breathing can be regulated by these respiratory rhythm center, and not only this one is controlling, but actually some chemosensitive area is also present into the brain as well as into the body blood vessels, that is known as a chemosensitive area. Okay, so chemosensitive areas, these chemosensitive areas are actually very sensitive for some chemicals, that is known as the CO2 and the H positive. If suppose H positive concentration and the CO2 concentration is increasing into the blood, so in that case they will give the signal to the chemosensitive area, and these chemosensitive area will give the signal, these sensitive area will give the signal to the respiratory rhythm center, and these rhythm center will give the positive signal to the pneumotaxic center or the apneustic center. So apneustic center will give the positive regulation to the rhythm center, it will give the affection to our lungs. Okay, and because of that we will start breathing fastly and our breathing rate increase. Okay, breathing rate will increase, and breathing rate increase means our oxygen concentration increasing into the blood. As the oxygen is increasing, so automatically CO2 will become low and H positive will become low. So that is how our breathing mechanism will be controlling by these two processes. One process is by the respiratory rhythm center, second is by the chemosensitive area into the bloodstream as well as into the brain. Okay, so let us see what our NCERT is saying for these, then other part, one more part we will see later. So first of all, let us see that human beings have the significant ability to maintain and moderate the respiratory rhythm to suit the demand of the body tissues. Okay, this is done by the neural system. How it is controlling? With the help of the neural system. A specific center is present into the medulla oblongata, that we know that in our medulla oblongata we are having the specific center which is known as the which is known as the respiratory rhythm center. Okay, and this is here in the brain is called as a respiratory rhythm centers. Okay, and primarily which is responsible for this regulation. Okay, it is responsible for that regulation. Okay, so like that rhythm center. Okay, then after another center which is present into the pons area, that is known as the pneumotaxic center. But one more center you knows very well, apneustic center. You knows pneumotaxic center, it is pronouncing from the N, so you can call it as negative regulation, and apneustic center is pronouncing from the A, so you can remember it by addition, so plus. Okay, so like that you can keep in the mind, which can moderate the function of the respiratory rhythm center. The neural signal from this center can be reduce the duration of the inspiration. Reduce is indicating, reduce means it is indicating that pneumotaxic center is negative regulator. Okay, the respiratory rate. The chemosensitive area. Another part is chemosensitive area. This is the second one. First we have seen like the rhythm center. Second would be the chemosensitive area. Is situated adjacent to the rhythm center, nearby only it is present, which is very sensitive for the CO2 as well as the hydrogen ion concentration, that is H positive concentration. If suppose in case if these two ions are is increasing, like H positive or the CO2 is increasing, so in that case what will happen? They can activate this center. This center will become activate, which in turn can signal the rhythm center to make the necessary adjustment for the respiratory process by which these substance can be eliminated. As I told you how it will eliminate, like we will increase the breathing rate, automatically O2 level will increase, so CO2 level will become low. Then the next one is respiratory receptors, which is associated with the aortic arc. Third one is the aortic arc and the carotid artery. Also can recognize the CO2 and the H positive concentration, which will give the necessary signal to the rhythm center. Okay, for the rhythm center it will give for the remedial action. Okay, so now let's see third term, which is the carotid artery and the aortic arc receptors. So here itself I will add these two terms. One I told you for the respiratory rhythm center, second is the chemosensitive area, and the third one would be carotid artery and aortic arc. It is a carotid artery and aortic arc. Okay, so these two are also very sensitive. These two centers are also very sensitive for the CO2 and H positive concentration. If these two concentration will increase, so in that case they will give the signal to the respiratory centers. It will also give the signal to the respiratory center, and our breathing rate will increase and CO2 will become decrease. Okay, so like that the regulation is given in our NCERT for the breathing rate. Now let us focus on the next term, that is the cardiac center. How the our cardiac activity will increase or decrease. So for that we have to see the cardiac activity here, given in the second body fluid and the circulation chapter. Okay, so let us focus on this, that how the regulation will affect. First of all, we know very well that our heart is actually auto-regulated, or it is having its own signal generation with the help of the conduction system, like from the SA node to AV node, and from AV node to bundle of His, and then it is giving the signal to the Purkinje fiber. So this is the complete system, how the SA node to complete ventricle muscles are going to give the regulation. With the help of this complete conduction system, we are able to give the cardiac activity. Even our heart is out of the body for some minutes, our heart will become beating itself. Okay, so that is the reason that our heart is known as a myogenic. Then what about the neurogenic? That is your homework. Please write in the comment that in our NCERT, in among the animal kingdom or among the structure organization, we have studied about one organism which is showing the neurogenic heart. What is the name of that organism who is show, or animal who will show the neurogenic heart? That is your homework. Please do in the comment, write in the comment. Okay, write in the comment, that is your work. Okay, so if you will write, so I will feel like you are watching my videos. Okay, otherwise no need to do this much work hard. Okay, so at least you can give this much support to me. Okay, now let's see how the cardiac activity is actually regulating. Now let's see, first of all, as we are having our nervous system. Okay, in the nervous system we are having two type of the system. We are having the two type of the nervous system, like one autonomic nervous system is important. Okay, peripheral nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system is, we will focus, we will see it is again subdivided into the two parts, that is the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Remember that sympathetic nervous system always increase the heart rate. It will increase the heart rate. While if we will talk about the parasympathetic nervous system, it will always decrease the heart rate. Okay, that is important, that which one is increasing, which one will decrease. So parasympathetic nervous system will decrease the heart rate and sympathetic nervous system will increase the heart rate. These are the important terms we should know. So that is what given in our system. Acha, one more thing here itself we should know, that one is this term, that how our heart rate is increasing. One more term is, that is on our kidney we are having one gland, right? We are having one gland on the kidney, that is known as the adrenal gland. So from the adrenal gland we are having adrenal cortex, and in the center we are having the adrenal medulla. So the inner part is known as the adrenal medulla. Okay, it is the adrenal medulla. So from the adrenal medulla, one hormone is synthesizing that is known as the catecholamine. It is catecholamine, which is also known as the epinephrine or norepinephrine. Norepinephrine. Okay, so these two are actually responsible for increase in the heart rate. They are also responsible for increasing in the heart rate. So if we will see that epinephrine and norepinephrine are actually responsible for the heart rate. So these are the two terms, like one is from one which is increasing the heart rate, that is a catecholamine. Another which is increasing the heart rate, that is a sympathetic nervous system of the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system part of the autonomic nervous system. Okay, so they are actually increasing the heart rate. Okay, so here that is very important. So given here that our heart is actually auto-regulated and it is myogenic. So special neural centers into the medulla oblongata can moderate the cardiac function through the autonomic nervous system. How this autonomic nervous system is controlling the heartbeat as well, that is present in the form of cardiac center. So cardiac center, for example, this is the cardiac center. Okay, so this is the cardiac center, for example. So the center which is cardiac center into the medulla oblongata, it will give the positive signal. It will get the positive signal with the help of the apneustic center of the pons, and it will give the signal to the autonomic nervous system in the form of a sympathetic nervous system, and then the sympathetic nervous system in the form of a motor neuron will give the signal to our heart, and the heart will start beating very fastly by causing the vasoconstriction. What? By causing the vasoconstriction. Okay, so this is what our heart is increasing or decreasing the heart rate. And if suppose blood vessels is there, so in this blood vessel we know, if suppose for example our blood vessel is having the narrow lumen in the sense this part will become actually like this, it would be narrow, this part, and this part here is normal, no narrowness is there, that is normal only. So in this part you can notice like there would be a very narrow lumen of the blood vessel. Okay, so because of that what will happen? Because of this our blood pressure will increase in this part, right? So because of this our blood pressure is increasing. So basically we can say this narrow lumen will cause the because of the vasoconstriction. Okay, it is the vasoconstriction. Okay, and the another part, this one which is the broad lumen, that is indication for the vasodilation. This is the part for the vasodilation. So vasoconstriction will cause the high blood pressure or high heart rate, while the vasodilation will show the low heart rate or the low blood pressure. So vasoconstriction means high heart rate will become increase. Okay, so that is what you should keep in the mind, that heart rate will increase from the vasoconstriction and heart rate will decrease from the vasodilation. And who will cause the vasoconstriction? That is the catecholamine will cause the vasoconstriction. Automatically heart rate will become increase. Okay, so now let's see here what our system is saying, that in the medulla oblongata we have seen that it can regulate the cardiac function through the autonomic nervous system. In the autonomic nervous system, this is having a one part that is known as the sympathetic nerves or the sympathetic nervous system, which will increase the heart rate. Okay, and it is happening because of the ventricle contraction. How? Suppose these are the heart ventricles. So from the atrium to the ventricle, heart is receiving, the ventricles are receiving the blood from the atrium. Okay, so as the ventricle are receiving, so automatically because of the high blood pressure, the walls of the ventricle will become getting the more and more pressure. If it is getting more and more pressure, so what is this? This is actually increasing in the size. So the strength of the ventricle contraction will be increasing, and then finally the cardiac output is increasing. Okay, on the other hand, parasympathetic nervous system or the parasympathetic neural signal, the another component of the autonomic nervous system, it will actually decrease the heart rate. What they are saying? They are saying it will decrease the heart rate. Why it is decreasing? Because it is actually the part of the parasympathetic, as I told you here itself. Parasympathetic will decrease the heart rate. Okay, so this is the other component of this, because of which cardiac output will become low. Okay, and then the third term, which was actually increasing the heart rate, that is the adrenal medullary hormone. So adrenal medullary hormone is actually also increasing the heart rate, which is that adrenal medullary hormone, that is the norepinephrine or the epinephrine. Okay, so these two are important, which will cause the increase in the heart rate. Then